All right, friends, welcome to Module 7, the last in your syllabus. Constitutes about 7%. Yes, Chapter 7, 7%. Coincidence, maybe. This talks about BCP and DR. Generally was considered as not so important chapters until we realized the implication in the month of March 2020 when lockdown was announced. Correct? Can businesses survive? Correct? And the best and the simple strategy for everybody was work from home. So work from home became a business continuity management strategy. But having said that, we need to spend some time to understand what is this BCM and what are the important principles. And as an auditor, what are the key factors you will be looking into. So let me quickly spend about 15, 20 minutes or probably a good about 30 minutes to quickly summarize what is this business continuity management all about. Okay. So there can be multiple reasons where IT can fail, and please bear in mind when we discuss BCP, we are discussing only the IT BCP. It could be a server issue, network issue, disk failure, hacker can break in, denial of service attack. There could be an extended power failure, snow, storm, earthquake, tornado. A lot of these reasons could be a reason for a failure of IT. And few terms we should compulsory be aware when it comes to BCP. Asset, anything which is of value to the organization. Module 4 we looked into. Vulnerability, weakness in the system safeguards, again module 4. Threat, potential harm, exposure, the extent of loss, likelihood, probability that a threat will succeed, attack, anything which compromises the CIA, risk, a potential harm, countermeasure, something to reduce the risk or reduces the vulnerability, residual risk, leftover risk. One screen, all the terminologies can help you in module 4, module 7, but multiple places. Expect MCQ questions just from one particular slide. Second, few other terms. Emergency management team. This is the team which comprises of executives at all levels, including IT, what they're responsible for, etc. Then you have what is called incident handling procedure. Incident handling is those fellows immediately if something goes wrong, what are these guys supposed to do? Okay, and let me tell you, incident refers to a breach, issue, a problem, a disruption, a bug, anything you can call it as an incident. So that has basically potential to create a loss. It could create an implication. And then you have your minimum business continuity objectives, MBCO. What is the minimum level of services which are necessary to run your business? Can I just run my business with one server and one computer and still operate? Correct? So that's my MBCO. Many of you, when we went for a lockdown, we had to ensure what is the bare minimum which is necessary. I remember some CA firms, what they did, small, very proprietary concerns. They took their entire server and went home. That's all. They said, okay, fine, we'll decide what to do later, but we'll take the server and come. Then they enabled internet connection, something they were able to do. I remember a few CA firms did that because they were not permitted to go outside, and they actually did that. Then you have the MAO, maximum acceptable outage. For how long can you tolerate if your systems don't work? For example, a very crude way of understanding is, how long can you survive without your power? As long as your UPS gives battery backup. Correct? So that is a simple way for you to understand from one angle. But UPS or the power failure is not the only possible. There could be multiple methods. Correct? Very important examination question. RTO, RPO. RTO is determined based on the acceptable data loss. How much of data are you okay to lose? That means it indicates the earliest point in time which is acceptable to recover the data. Then is your RPO. It is nothing but how much of data can you lose if there is a disruption. Let's take an example. There's a disaster which happened now. Okay, whatever time, 11:30 example. It's about 11:20, 11:30. Let's keep 11:30. There was a disaster. Touch wood, but just for example, how much of data loss can actually happen? It depends on when was the last time you did a backup. You did a backup at 11:25, 11:20, or yesterday. So between that day to today, now some amount of data you have lost. That is your recovery point objective. How much of an RPO can you withstand? prior. Okay, RPO, prior. Next comes RTO, recovery time objective. How quickly, the earliest point in time where you can start recovering the data and get started. How quickly can you get started? So today, now there is a disruption. Can I work within 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, 5 hours, 5 days, etc.? Now your RPO, as the name suggests, prior. RTO, later time. So PP, easy way to remember. Forget that blind school method. Which alphabets comes first? P comes first, then comes T. P is prior, pre. T later. Clear with this? So that's a simple way in which you can remember. Now from an examination, how can you sort of remember this? And how questions can be asked? First, the higher the RTO, I repeat, the higher the RTO, the way in which you have your DR plan will change. For example, if you are, the lower the RTO, if your RTO is very, very less, or your RTO has to be less than a second, RTO has to be less than a second in case of air traffic control. Bank server, maybe 1 second is okay. 1 second it stops working, okay. Air traffic control, 1 second stops working, over. Millisecond also it should not stop. I hope you're getting the difference. So in the case of an RTO, your hot site, warm site, cold site will be decided. The lesser the RTO, you will prefer a mirror site. Slightly more, you will prefer a warm site, a hot site, warm site. And if your RTO is fairly high, you will go for a cold site. Reverse. If your RPO is extremely high, you will go for a tape backup. That means once in a while you do a backup. If your RTO is little lesser, you'll go for asynchronous replication. That means whatever is entered now, after 10 minutes will get entered in the backup server. If your RPO is very, very less, you go for synchronous replication. That means as and when it is saved here, it will get saved here. Banks follow synchronous replication because banks primarily, they record all the data in 2 places simultaneously. And between the bank server to the DR server, in a span of 5 minutes, the data will go, because they would have taken their RPO as 5 minutes in those cases. Correct? I hope it's clear. Now, what is the relationship between MTBF and RPO? MTBF is maximum time between 2 failures. If your RPO is less, what is RPO? Recovery point. If your RPO is less, your MTBF also is less. Between failures, the time will be very less. Even if a failure happens also, you have adequate resources to come back. Are we clear? On the other side, mean time to recover. That is an RTO. How much time does it take for recovery? If your mean time to recover is high, that means your RTO is high. If your mean time to recover is low, your RTO is low. Are you getting this contrast? Because 100% expect one question on RPO, RTO, MTBF, MTTR. These are all fundamental questions where they test your knowledge. Okay, so that is the gist of it. I think one more slide in the subsequent places, you will get the easy way in which you can do that. These are not synonymous. These are not synonymous. They are different concepts. RTO and MTBF, or all these things are totally different concepts. It depends on the usage. Okay, when you do a business impact analysis, RPO, RTO has to be defined. MTBF and MTTR are, after a disaster happens, we sort of post-mortem, we analyze, okay, what was the mean time to recover? What was the mean time between failure, etc. Yeah, then comes story, BCP manual, a book or a document, ebook, whatever you can call it, which has actions to be taken, resource to be utilized, procedures. Action, resource, procedures. It also speaks about what is a BCM team. And BCM is a framework which can improvise your resiliency. It is a very important, it's a rehearsed method of restoring. This is a very nice word. Rehearsed method of restoring. What is the meaning of rehearsed method? That means you've already done a rehearsal. On the day of disaster, you will not do a rehearsal, correct? You do it much before. Of course, when I say much before, that doesn't mean that you put the fire and see what happens. If a fire happens, what you do? That's why you do a mock drill, etc. Next, business impact analysis. Assess the impact that would occur if the activity was disrupted. What is the maximum time period for which disruption you can withstand? Critical, you identify what are the critical business processes. Then you have three things: resumption planning. What do you do to get things back into action? It's more on the operational piece. Disaster recovery, some bit of technology aspect. Crisis management is the overall. Yeah, this is a very important thing which you should understand. The concept of DR, BC, and this thing. Disaster recovery is immediately what you do. That's a small portion. Bigger portion is business continuity. When you had to go for a lockdown sort of a situation, that time if you sit and buy a cloud-based software, it's not going to work. You should have bought it much before. Maybe to some extent it can help you to fasten the process, but it has to work. So DR is your disaster recovery, BC is your business continuity, BCM is the overall. I think we have covered all of this. In business continuity, you ensure that high risks move aside to ensure that your capacity continuity planning is taken care. This is your general life cycle. You have your risk assessment, assess the risk, look for options, recovery plan, implement whatever is there, and get the recovery plan validated. Yeah. What is the composition of business continuity management? All of them: incident response, disaster, business continuity. These are types of disasters. I think we all know that. Phases of disaster examination as question. First is crisis, what you need to do. Immediately after that is emergency response, the next steps. Then is your recovery, and then restoration. Restoration is coming back to normal. Recovery is immediately what you do. Things like that. So I'm skipping the questions as I told you. Now, how do I develop a BCP? This is a gist of all the 6 phases. We'll look into each of them in one by one. First is a BIA. Then is your risk assessment. Develop the BCP, test it, very important. Train, and last is maintain. So from a BIA, business impact analysis, what are the critical things which you have to do? Identify the organization risk, what is the critical process, quantify them, identify interdependencies, determine the allowable downtime, determine the impact in the event of disaster. All those comes in BIA. So what is the process of this? You prioritize. This is where your RTO, RPO comes into picture. RTO, critical system, 0 RTO or very minimal. Why? You want it, even if disaster happens, immediately want to be working. RPO, lower RPO, higher cost. The lower the RPO and RTO is, more is the cost. Okay. SDO, you have something called as a service delivery objective, especially in SLAs, etc. It comes into picture. And the minimum level of services which is necessary to restore. Then what are the few phases of the risk assessment? I'm not going into these things. Again, your risk assessment, you can expect an examination question on this. This is not just restricted only to BCP, DR, anything. You rank your risk values, you compute formula. Risk is equal to asset cost plus asset cost plus likelihood plus vulnerability divided by 3. You can use risk is equal to threat into vulnerability into impact. You can use multiple methods at the end of the day. Then comes your development of BCP. This is where you focus on your policy, your report, BCP manual, your training program, you test it. And the BCP manual consists of these documents, what you see here. You need to test your BCP. There are multiple types of tests. Test, all these methods. We'll look into in the next slide. Compulsory, your BCP has to be tested. Otherwise, it is a risk because you do not know what's going to happen. This is necessary for you to take some sort of a good understanding of how this works. Yeah, what are the types of tests? Checklist test. You have a checklist. Check whether all these things are applicable. Go ahead. Sometimes you have fire drills. They do a checklist test. I mean, especially to check whether the fire extinguisher is there, where this is there, that is there, etc. Then as a structured walkthrough, you go by step. Okay, this is that. Go there, check. Sort of do a sort of a walkthrough. Then simulation. Classical example is a mock fire drill. Immediately ask people to evacuate, run, and all those things. Parallel test. Okay, if this server goes down, can the server work? So immediately ask the server to work. Full interruption test. Completely stop the business and start something else. So that's a full interruption test. Next is your training and awareness. What is the purpose of your training? To train, recover the participants who are, sort of having some plan, to train the management. And then user management must be aware of basic recovery strategy. so that tomorrow if something goes wrong, they should know how to recover. It should not be that something is there only on the book. It should be in their practical knowledge as well. You have various methods. You can do a walkthrough, you do a workshop, you do what is called live simulation. So all of those things are your training and awareness. Then comes maintenance of your BCP. It is critical that your change management, all of these things are periodically revised. Your fire extinguishers, etc., has to be renewed. Your BCM testing, it should all be regularly performed, and you periodically keep on updating. You in your BCM manual, you'll have emergency contact number details. Who are these people? How? What? All of those. Then comes incident handling. What is the process? How to develop an incident response plan? Whom should we report to? Because an incident, as I told you, is something which can focus. It's a breach, it's an attack, it's a compromise, it's a virus, whatever it may be. Correct? Whether the incident becomes a disaster, only based on time you'll get to know. Correct? So this is a typical scenario. Incident response plan. Maybe it's a very small. It will still be here, but it may become a disaster also. So the disaster may require a BCP, or sometimes you can sort of figure it out and sort of solve it. So it depends. So what are the few disaster recovery activities you can see over here? I'm not going into these things in detail. You can sort of, scan through this. Then you have business categorization, loss of revenue, loss of reputation. Then there is a decrease in the customer satisfaction, loss of productivity or man hours. All these things are parameters for business categorization. Now your disaster scenarios could be again 4. You have major, minor, trivial, and catastrophic. Major is good amount of loss. Minor is very limited loss. Trivial, maybe some small injury. Catastrophic, death or heavy penalties, or massive fires, all of those. So whenever catastrophic is there, there should be an element of death where it becomes catastrophic. Yeah. So how do you evaluate the disaster scenarios? These are a few examples for you to evaluate it. You have various concepts or models which you can see here. Minor, major, catastrophic, trivial, etc. You can sort of put it into a value scale analysis, a likelihood and business impact. Next, what is the impact of disaster? It could be multiple. Financial health, loss of revenue, cash flow. Your service level agreements could be impacted. Customer attitude could change. HR, downsizing, you may want to remove everybody. Then you may have to increase or decrease the usage of technology. Liabilities, some liabilities were never provided, you may have to probably factor that. Then comes your testing process. You need to understand the objectives, define what the boundary is, okay? Because you can't test everything. Create one scenario, don't create all the scenarios. Don't expect all the disasters will occur at the same time. Exception is 2020 year, but I understand, but try to evaluate on a generic basis. Evaluate what is the test criteria, few assumptions, test them, brief them, debriefing, all these things. Then comes your documentation. The business continuity policy. What is the business continuity management? What is the BIA report? You have a risk assessment report. All of these should be documented because when you do an audit, you'll have to go through all these exercises. Okay, and then you have your documentation, authority register, incident log, all these are a bunch of things. Debriefing and briefing. Briefing is informing somebody what happened. Debriefing is reverse. They come and brief you. So you are doing the BCM exercise. You brief your team saying this is what you have to do, step 1, step 2, step 3. They go execute it and they come back to you and they debrief you, reverse. Okay, so where you understand what is about. I think we spoke about BCP policy. I'm not discussing too many things on this. Yeah, contents of a BCP manual, examination question, the purpose, organization, disaster definitions, objectives of BCP, scope, what is the plan and approach, how do you plan to administer and manage that, notification, disaster recovery, activation. When is it called disaster? Can you just like that call it as a disaster? You should have, somebody should be given the authority to call it as a disaster. It's like declaring emergency, correct? Examination question. What are the data backup strategies? First, dual recording. Record here also, record there also. Simple. Banks follow this. Periodic dumping of data followed in CA offices. Once in a week, take the backup. Logging input transactions only. So I took a backup today. Okay, this requires some software. Then typically done for ERP softwares. What I do, only the inputs I capture. Then what I do with that, whatever logic is there and then inputs, I rerun this. The moment I rerun it, tomorrow I know I'll get the answer. So I have the original information. I rerun the inputs, I'll be able to get the output. Logging the changes to the data. So check what is last time's data, check now what is the data, check the difference only between both of them. Backup techniques, full backup. Insert your hard disk, copy the entire data. 1 week later, insert, again copy the entire data. Full backup. You don't bother what is there, you keep on copying every time the full stuff. Incremental backup. Last time, whatever was there, great. Now what I'm doing is only the addition of files, only the change of files. Capture the files which sort of, incrementally does. There are multiple softwares which can actually do. It will give you what are the changes, what are the reports, or you have used only some data, only those things it will take, others it will not copy. So there are some things which are available. If you don't have a backup system, please consider putting it into your C office. It becomes very critical. Incremental backup. Then you have what is called as okay, why is incremental backup difficult to restore? Now it depends on the software, how it is programmed. So if I have to restore an incremental backup, I'll give you an example, that time you'll be able to understand it completely. So just give me some time, you'll be able to understand this. So if I have to restore an incremental backup, first I have to restore a full backup. Then I have to restore incremental backup 1, incremental backup 2, incremental backup 3. So 5 incremental backups I have to restore, only then I can do it. So multiple times I have to do it. Next comes your differential backup. Now what it does is, it takes the backup since the last full backup. Meaning, Sunday you took the full backup. Monday if you take the backup, it'll take Monday's data. Tuesday if you take the backup, differential backup, it'll take Monday data as well as Tuesday data. Why? Since the last time you did the full backup. So compared to incremental, this is much more faster. Then is your mirror backup. As and when transaction keeps on occurring, you back it up. Expensive. Okay. It does not zip. It cannot be password protected. All those things are challenges. But your differential backup and other type backup are resolvably zipped and protected. Let me give an example. Sunday, you took a full backup. Monday, you took a backup where only Monday's data is there. Incremental backup. You can also call it as differential backup. But Tuesday, when you take the data, you have to be very careful. If it takes only Tuesday's data, it is incremental backup. If it takes Monday's and Tuesday's data, it is differential backup. If it takes all the data, it is full backup. So what typically small banks do is, Sunday they take a full backup. Monday, Tuesday, they will take a incremental backup in one separate independent hard disk. Wednesday, what they will do, they will take differential backup. So when they take differential backup, what happens? Sunday is already taken, one side. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, all the three come here. Then the same hard disk which they used on Monday, they will delete it and they will take a incremental backup on Thursday, incremental backup on Friday. Then with a fresh hard disk, they will take an incremental backup on Saturday, or they may choose the entire weeks or do a full backup. You got it? So backup strategy keeps on changing. You have to be very, very careful, especially understand the difference between incremental and differential. Correct? Incremental, 1 day at a time or one time since the last backup. Differential, since the last full backup. I hope it's clear. Incremental, since the last backup. Differential, since the last full backup. So if your full backup was taken 10 days back, your differential will take all the 10 days data. If your full backup was taken 10 days back and every day you kept on taking a backup, incremental will take only that additional days. I hope you're able to get it. Yeah, so that's the clear difference between differential and incremental. Examination important. Yeah, you also have different strategies for LAN, single point of failure. You have multiple cables, you have remote access systems. For data communication, you have dial-up, circuit, virtual satellite, on-demand services, VPN, all these are different models. Then you have what is called alternative sites. What is alternative sites? You have something called mirror site, almost replication. Everything will be as it is, end to end, first to the last, everything will be there. That's a mirror site. Second, hot site. It may not have 100%. It may not have 100% replication. It may have 99 or 98% replication. What will not be there? Maybe data also will be there, but it will not work 100% real time. It will take some few minutes for it to configure, get started, etc. So that is what is called as a hot site. Then you have warm site. Some basic information is there. Some basic software is there. The place is also decided. Maybe you have to come install the software, like an application software. And once you install the application software, it will start working. Whereas cold site is the worst. When I say worst, it is obviously very, very cheap. What a cold site does is, it ensures that the basic software or server is there. You have to come install the application software. You have to install the data. You have to install a lot of things. And cold site normally takes a good amount of time. Okay. And then you have your offsite data protection. And offsite data protection could be an example. You store it somewhere outside your organization, somewhere else. And of course, you have a mobile site. A mobile site is portable. You can just carry it. It's more like a portable DG set and things like that. Yeah, so I think we spoke about cold site, warm site, hot site. Hot site, immediate. Cold site takes a lot of time. Warm is between. Reciprocal arrangement. My data with your office, your data with my office. Okay, so they can ask you, which of the following methods has the highest user resistance? Reciprocal. Why will I agree to give my data with you? It's like Amazon keeping the data in Flipkart's office. Obviously, it's not going to be possible. Theoretically possible. Whether they would do it becomes a challenge. What if your system also put into it? Can Dropbox, OneDrive be considered as mirror site? It depends. It depends on how you have enabled your synchronization. If you have enabled a synchronization such that only once in 30 minutes, once in 40 minutes, the data gets synchronized to Dropbox or OneDrive, then it may fall under a hot site. But please keep in mind, all these Dropbox and other things will back up only what is the data in your computer. It will not back up the data in the server. Correct? If you're looking into a large servers, etc., you require real-time integration. So I would not say it is a process through which you can achieve it, but I would not still say it is a hot site or a warm site. Okay, because a hot site, warm site, these are all for the traditional server methodology. In a case of a cloud, everything is different because cloud takes everything on real time. So if it's deleted in my system, deleted in server also. Maybe you could have enabled the logic, remember, for 10 days, 30 days, etc. Yeah, cold site can tolerate some downtime. Hot site, it needs immediate backup. Okay. Warm site, it's a combination of both. Yeah, this is a very, very important slide. Very, very important slide. Examination asks question. RTO, RPO in case of mirrored site is extremely less. 30 seconds, zero data loss. Up to 30 seconds, okay? Hot site, maybe 30 minutes, half an hour. There could be some amount of data loss in case of hot site. It again depends. Warm site, very negligible or some data loss will be there. Cold site, you can expect some amount of data loss. Okay, this is another way of selection criteria. Cold site cost, everything is low. Setting up time is obviously longer. Whereas mirrored site, setup time, there is no setup time at all because it runs parallelly. So cost is extremely high. Okay, so mirror is the highest. Next is hot, mobile, maybe depends. Then is your warm and cold. Then is your data vault. And this is for storing your hard disk or offline backup. You can build a hybrid on-site or off-site where you have a proper data safe where you can keep that. Then you have system resiliency tools. These are tools which can, sort of do fault tolerance. What is a fault tolerance? Even if there is an error, it will stand strong. Even if something goes wrong, it will still be safe. Okay, and generally they will ensure that you don't have single point of failure. So what is meaning of fault tolerance? Despite you having a trouble, system still works. Despite you having a challenge, it still works. So no single point of failure, no single point of repair, etc. Then is your RAID, redundant array of inexpensive disks. You can see over here. This is basically disks, which are hard disks, where parallelly data keeps on getting recorded. Okay, so there's a virtualization technology that combines physical drives into multiple components. Now this entire stack, what you see, okay, maybe 3 or 4 hard disks may act as one hard disk or one server. So where it creates using a virtualization, all the 4 are considered as one hard disk. Physically, they are multiple, but they are virtualized and created as well. Okay, and this is an example of how infrastructure diagram looks like. In case you have not seen this, it's just an FYI. Okay, then you have the insurance. Insurance are again good methods, but you need to ensure it covers equipment, facility, storage, all of this. 4 types of insurance: examination question, first party insurance, your asset is safeguarded. First party business interruption, it's basically loss of profit insurance. Third party insurance, because of you somebody else incurs a loss, that somebody else's loss will be paid by your insurance company. So you have general liability, your customer losses data, because of that you may have to pay it, or directors and officers liability to compensate any acts of the directors. Okay, so I think that's the basic thing which I wanted to cover. I have covered a good amount of chunk and a lot of interesting information. Hopefully you had some value added insights. This is module 7 for you. I'll be happy to take your questions. I have a last part, which is basically examination planning tips. In the meanwhile, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to take it.